Hey everybody, we are here in Seattle ready to check in for our cruise on the Carnival Luminosa, week-long cruise into Alaska. Excited to get on board. It's a quick $30 Uber ride from our hotel in downtown Seattle. The cruise line does offer transfers from the airport if you're flying in the same day, though I like to fly in the night before for all cruises just because it's a little less stressful. But not really the prettiest of ports, at least walking in, though it was very organized and no aggressive porters like some of the ports in Florida. No line really to get all the documents checked either, so we were able to walk on board a lot earlier than anticipated. Pretty terminal though, seems like they've kind of redone it a little bit, and we were excited to step on board the Carnival Luminosa, a very different ship than the other Carnival ships I've been on. Getting on board early, yeah! Now we are sailing on a 7-night voyage from Seattle round trip, stopping in Juneau, Alaska, Skagway, Ketchikan, as well as cruising scenically one day in the Tracy Arm Fjord. So I'm excited to get on board, go to Alaska. I've been to Alaska before, but never on a cruise ship. So all these ports are going to be brand new to me. Never been anywhere that we're visiting on this voyage. And we're going to show you everything there is to do. But first, we're going to pass the Carnival Whale. A surprisingly large amount of characters on board from Carnival on this ship. A little refueling going on. But first stop, of course, was the buffet. So we wanted to grab some of the delicious chopsticks Chinese food. You can take a look at downtown Seattle in the distance there in the Space Needle. It's always fun just to see all the logistics going on, getting the cruise ready to go for a whole week-long voyage. Pretty soon, though, it was time to check out our cabin. So I did get a balcony cabin for this voyage. I do recommend a balcony cabin on these Alaska sailings because there's so much to see. There's whales, lots of wildlife, glaciers, everything. So having at least an ocean view, preferably I think a balcony, is definitely the way to go here. We had really great weather this cruise too, so we were able to use the balcony a whole bunch. The weather may not cooperate for you on these different sailings, but I do like the balcony for being able just to check what the temperature is like outside before you're walking out your cabin, and so you can properly attire. But a pretty typical cruise cabin here. You had your bathroom there with a shower, curtain shower, just like all the other Carnival ships I've been on. Small little desk area to the right with plenty of plugs, a lot of plugs. And then near the beds, they actually had the USB-A, old style USBs for charging your phone, which I thought was great. A lot of cruise ships don't have that, and so it was nice to see that on board. Small little stool there with a trash can beneath it. I'm traveling with my dad, as you saw this voyage, so we had our beds split. The beds are pretty close together there, so make sure you're like your cabin mate if you're sharing a room. And then there's 2 chairs here on the balcony. Overall, good shape of the balcony. I liked the clear railing here, so he always had a nice view. Everything seemed nice and clean in the room, so no complaints from me. And it was time to ship off pretty quickly here. Pretty funny to see like the forklifts being used here. Just a very slow process here in Seattle. But definitely not as seamless as some of the other Caribbean ports. So we watched this for a bit, and it was time to enjoy the rest of the ship and our sail away, which is beautiful Puget Sound. So we chose the early dining on board the Carnival Luminosa for this cruise. Always like the main dining room food on Carnival, so I was excited with the Welcome Aboard menu. Has my favorite dish, which is the short rib. Definitely recommend that. But I went with a little soup and salad to start. And then, of course, the short rib, which is just absolutely fantastic. Always delivers, in my opinion. Carnival is always a lot of fun in the main dining room. They always have some little show that the waiters and busboys do. So definitely really, participate in all that and dance around. And they're trying to make sure that you're having a great time. So most of the first day was spent sailing out of Puget Sound, and then around Vancouver Island and turning north towards Alaska. And a number of different activities, some similar to cruises in the past, like Name That Tune with a live band, which is always really great. They had a lot of live music on this ship, which I've always found to be the case with Carnival. Lots of live music everywhere. They had the naturalist on board explaining how Alaska was going to go for us. Then they had the Welcome Aboard show. And so that was night one. Our next day was a sea day sailing up to Juneau. Grabbed my free coffee because I am sailing on a casino raid on this voyage, so I had drinks on them everywhere. Thought this was interesting. They actually have a port valet that they'll take your bags all the way to the airport for you, making things nice and easy. I did like that. Did want to join up with the naturalist here and see, a little bit more about the wildlife and kind of when we were going to be sailing through wildlife areas. Lots of whale watching on this voyage. So Emily was really great on board. She really made the trip really special. First full day here on board the Carnival Luminosa. We got our sea day heading up to Juneau, Alaska. So far so good on the ship. Amazing ship. Really different than the other Carnival ships that I've been on, but it's in great shape. So far, good food, really a lot of fun. I do like the itineraries that start with the sea day. It just gets you in the mood for cruising. I've had other itineraries where I'm getting on board and then heading off really early to the first port, and it just doesn't feel right. I think that you need a sea day before and after all of your ports on every voyage. We ate in the main dining room twice this day. The lunch was an Asian menu, so it was really good. Good quality beef and broccoli and some noodles on the side there. And then later for dinner, we had steaks. They had magicians walking around, which was pretty cool to see. And they even had these little celebratory shots that we splurged on, even though they weren't included in the drink package. But did love the magician walk around. It was fun to have like a good little entertainment going on here. And he was a lot of fun. So I love that Carnival does this, and not something I see in the main dining rooms on the other ships. So definitely living up to its fun ship name. Then I had the souffle for dessert. Never my favorite dessert. I don't know why. I know they're a big deal. Not really my thing. But it was also the captain's greeting night, so it was fun to be there in the main atrium and look at all of the different officers on board and hear them speak. So always fun that they do that. Kind of the first sea day, and you get an idea of who is actually running the ship. So the morning of Juneau, we were actually still sailing. So we had a late arrival into port. It was like 1 p.m. to 10 p.m. I think we were in port. So a little different, but it was awesome because we were up pretty early to watch some of the whales breaching and feeding in this feeding ground that we were sailing through. So the naturalist on board, Emily, was narrating and pointing things out and letting us know exactly what was going on with the humpback whales. Humpback whales were the only whales that we saw on this voyage, but other people saw orcas. Really, really fun. If you're into the wildlife, this is just a not to miss activity. And so sailing into port, we were officially in the inside passage, so you can see the very calm seas. We were going to be in the inside passage for most of the cruise before we started sailing back to Seattle. Beautiful water, beautiful weather this entire cruise. So arriving into port, really, really amazing views of all the mountains. Went to the sea day brunch as well, grabbed some chicken and waffles, which were quite delicious. And as we sailed in, we were getting excited to visit Juneau, which will be our next video. So thanks a lot for watching. We'll see you on the next video, and we'll show you some of the whale watching we did in Juneau.